Fear is not the enemy. The real enemy is the belief that fear defines you. Fear begins in the mind long before anything real has happened. It is not rooted in truth. It's rooted in possibility, in what might go wrong, in what could fall apart. Fear is the imagination turned against itself. It is a reaction, not a reality. And if you don't understand that, you will bow to it. You will obey it. You will let something fictional control something real. Your actions every time fear rises in your chest, your first duty is to pause and ask, what exactly am I reacting to? Not in general, not emotionally, specifically. What do I think is going to happen? What is the worst case scenario I've imagined? That simple act, asking instead of obeying, separates those who live by reason from those who live by reaction. Because once you isolate the fear, you see it clearly. And when you see clearly, fear shrinks. It loses its shadow. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of those thoughts. You don't have to believe everything that passes through your mind. Most of it is noise. Most of it is survival instinct exaggerated by habit. And when you identify with it, when you say, I am afraid, you lose your position of control. Say instead, there is fear. Create space. Step back. Watch it arise. Watch it pass. Because it will pass. Unless you feed it, fear feeds on attention. It multiplies when you replay it, rehearse it, listen to it, and consult it like it's your guide. Fear doesn't need facts to survive, it needs your focus. So when fear shows up, don't feed it, don't fight it either. Just watch it, name it, measure it. Ask yourself, is this life threatening or just uncomfortable? 99% of the time it's the latter. Discomfort is not danger. Learn the difference, because when you stop confusing the two, you stop living like a victim. The person who conquers fear is not the one who never feels it. It's the one who refuses to let it dictate behavior. Do the thing you fear. Speak when your voice shakes. Show up while your hands tremble. Walk through the fire without waiting for it to go out. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's the choice to act while afraid. And every time you do that, the fear loses its authority over you. You stop being its servant. You become its master. Look at your life. How many decisions have you delayed because of fear? How many opportunities did you walk past because you didn't feel ready? How many conversations did you avoid? Chances you didn't take, ideas you never acted on, because fear convinced you to wait. And did waiting make you stronger? No, waiting made you smaller. Because every time you listen to fear and obey it, you reinforce weakness. You confirm the lie that you are fragile. You are not fragile. You are untested. You are not broken. You are buried under excuses, hesitations, and unchallenged fears that you've treated as truth. But truth doesn't whisper threats in your ear. Truth doesn't paralyze you. That's fear's voice. And you can train your mind to hear it for what it is, noise, not fact. When you realize that, everything shifts. You stop freezing. You start facing. And even when the fear remains, your steps become deliberate. You must build a mind that can stay still under pressure. Not numb, not detached. Still. Stillness is strength. When fear rises, don't run. Don't react. Sit with it. Breathe. Say nothing. Let the storm pass through you instead of dragging you with it. It takes practice. You'll want to flee. You'll want to distract yourself, escape, numb, or justify. But the ones who rise above fear are the ones who stay still enough to study it. They use fear as feedback, not instruction. Fear has a purpose. It alerts you. It warns you. But it does not define you. Let it signal you, not steer you. Use it to prepare, not to panic. If something matters deeply, fear will appear. That doesn't mean don't go forward. It means step in with awareness. Move toward it with breath, with control, with readiness. You beat fear by walking with it, not away from it. You let it accompany you, but you never let it lead. Training your body helps. A body that is exhausted, weak, or neglected cannot support a steady mind. Move daily. Breathe deliberately. Strengthen your posture, straighten your spine. The body informs the mind. If your body is chaotic, the mind follows. Train both. A strong mind and a strong body has no room for cowardice. It feels the fear and walks anyway. Not rushed. Not reactive. Just clear. Don't wait for fear to vanish. It won't. Act anyway. Speak anyway. Decide anyway. Because freedom doesn't come from a life without fear. It comes from a life that refuses to be ruled by it. When your peace depends on things you can't control, you will never have peace. You'll chase it endlessly, wondering why it slips through your fingers again and again. The mind creates anxiety when it tries to govern what is beyond its reach. And the truth is simple. Most things in life are outside your control. What people think, what they say, how they behave, the outcomes of your effort, the timing of life, the circumstances you're dealt. These things are not yours. They belong to the world. And the more energy you waste trying to control the world, the more anxious you become. Control is an illusion most people are addicted to. They try to control how others see them, how events unfold, how conversations go. And when things don't go according to their mental script, they spiral, they panic, they resist, they lash out. This is the root of most frustration, not reality itself, but the gap between what people expect and what actually happens. That gap creates suffering. And the only way to close that gap is to return to what's yours. Return to what you can influence. Your thoughts. Your responses. Your actions. You can't control what the world hands you, but you can control how you hold it. You can meet disrespect with dignity. You can meet loss with gratitude. You can meet chaos with calm. But only if you stop trying to fight battles that aren't yours. You are not in charge of life. You are in charge of how you live it. And once you accept that, peace begins to grow. Not because life becomes easy, but because your mind stops resisting everything that isn't perfect. Anxiety is fueled by control issues. The more you need things to go your way, the more pressure you put on yourself. You replay conversations. You overthink decisions. You try to guess what people will do next. You spend more time in your imagination than in your reality. And it wears you down. Not because life is cruel, but because your mental grip is too tight. Loosen it. Let things breathe. You are not weak for surrendering what you were never meant to hold. You are wise. The strongest people are not the ones who manipulate outcomes. They are the ones who master their mindset when outcomes shift. They don't crumble when plans change. They don't panic when people disappoint them. They don't collapse under the weight of uncertainty. Why? Because they know where their control ends. And they respect that line. They invest their focus in their habits, their reactions, their values. That's where the real work is. That's where real power lives. Imagine you're holding a rope attached to something massive. A storm, a person, a situation you cannot move. The harder you pull, the more friction it creates, the more it burns your hands. But the moment you let go, the pain stops. That is the power of release. Not in giving up, but in giving back what was never yours. You stop resisting. You stop clenching. You stop trying to carry things too heavy for the human heart. And what's left is peace. Not because you fixed everything, but because you stopped trying to own what isn't yours. This doesn't mean apathy. This doesn't mean passivity. This is not a call to do nothing. It is a call to do only what you can and to do it well. Make the call. Have the conversation. Set the boundary. Do the work. But once you've acted, let the outcome go. Let it land where it lands. Worrying won't improve the result. Overthinking won't prevent the fall. Trust the process. And trust yourself to rise again if the result is not what you hoped for. The discipline is in the detachment, not from people or purpose, but from needing to control how things unfold. You give your full effort, but you don't demand a guarantee. You speak your truth, but you don't control how it's received. You show up with integrity, but you don't chase validation. You stop tying your peace to things that change, and instead, you root your strength in the one thing that doesn't. Your ability to choose how you respond every day gives you this choice: react to the world or respond to it. Reaction is emotional. It's fast. It's uncontrolled. It's loud. Response is measured. It's thoughtful. It's disciplined. You can't choose what happens today, but you can choose your response. And that choice makes all the difference. It's what separates those who feel powerless from those who walk through fire without losing themselves in the smoke. There's freedom in limits. When you finally accept what's not yours to control, you reclaim the energy to master what is: your morning routine, your breath, your tone, your focus, your reactions. These are small things, but they form the foundation of mental strength. You don't need to master the universe. You just need to master your own. The mind is not strengthened through ease. It is strengthened through trials rehearsed and trials endured. One of the most powerful ways to reduce fear and anxiety is to prepare for hardship before it arrives. This does not make you negative. It does not mean you expect the worst. It means you're ready. It means you meet reality with clarity, not fantasy. Most anxiety comes not from what happens, but from being mentally unprepared when it does. People spend their days hoping everything goes according to plan. They build a routine, a future, a fragile sense of peace around the belief that nothing will go wrong. And when something does, a failure, a betrayal, a delay, a loss, they break. They panic. Not because the event was impossible to handle, but because they had never trained their mind to carry the weight of it. They waited for life to test them before they practiced strength. But it's too late to build the shield when the arrows are already flying. You must rehearse adversity. In your thoughts, in your preparation. Not to attract negativity, but to remove its sting. Visualize the difficulty. Ask yourself, what if this doesn't work? What if they say no? What if I lose everything? Let the scenario play out in your mind. Not to scare yourself, but to familiarize yourself. Because once you have seen it in your imagination, it has less power over you in reality. You've already visited that pain. You've already survived it in thought. So when it comes, it doesn't paralyze you. It meets a mind that has already been there and returned stronger. This is not catastrophizing. It is strengthening. Weak minds are shocked by misfortune. Strong minds are shaped by it. By rehearsing difficulty, you remove the element of surprise. And surprise is the sharpest edge of fear. What you expect, you can handle. What blindsides you controls you. So take the time to train your thoughts daily. Think about the hard conversation. Think about losing. Think about starting over. Think about the fall. Not to dwell, not to suffer, but to strip fear of its power. The body follows the mind. And a mind that has walked through the worst case scenario without panic is a body that can walk through fire without flinching. Prepare, not just practically, but mentally. If the job fails, I will rebuild. If the relationship ends, I will heal. If I lose the money, I will work again. If they reject me, I will move forward. You repeat these truths not as affirmations, but as armor. You don't run from the worst. You look it in the eye and say, if that's what it takes, I will face it and I will rise. Fear grows in the unknown. Preparation turns the unknown into the familiar. When you plan for discomfort, it loses the ability to destabilize you. It becomes something you've considered, studied, measured. You become like a soldier who drills daily, not for war, but so that if war comes, panic doesn't. You're not surprised. You're not shaken. You are already halfway through it, because your mind has already walked the terrain. Peace is not the absence of danger. It's the presence of readiness. It's the knowing that even if life collapses around you, your mind will remain upright. And that's not built in a day. It's built in reflection, in solitude, in self-examination, in letting your imagination play out the fire, not to scare you, but to make you immune to it. Every worst-case scenario you prepare for becomes one less thing that can own your mind. People who never think about adversity are not happier. They're just more fragile. They can't handle friction. They need things to be easy in order to be okay. But life doesn't cater to your comfort. It doesn't ask if you're ready before it shakes you. That's why you must train. The strongest minds are not the ones that never feel fear. They are the ones that rehearse it, face it, and walk through it before it ever arrives. They meet adversity like an old acquaintance, not a stranger. There's discipline in preparation. It's not easy to think about loss, rejection, or pain. But avoiding those thoughts doesn't protect you. It weakens you. You don't need to live in fear, but you do need to understand it, to map it out, to remove its mystery. You do that through mental rehearsal, through writing it down, through asking yourself, if this happens, who will I be? What will I do? How will I respond? The more you answer, the less anxious you become. You will face storms, you will lose things, you will fall. But if you prepare, none of those things will break you. They may bend you, they may burn for a while, but they will not own you. Because you will have already been there in your mind, and you will have chosen strength before it was forced upon you. The desire to control outcomes is one of the greatest sources of anxiety. People wrap their identity in results, as if success makes them worthy and failure makes them nothing. But outcomes are not within your control. Only effort is. You can do the right thing, say the right words, make the best decision, and still be met with loss, resistance, or silence. If your peace depends on how things turn out, your peace will be fragile, temporary, and unstable. Detach from the outcome. Not because the outcome doesn't matter, but because it doesn't belong to you. What belongs to you is the choice, the action, the discipline. What someone does with your truth is not your responsibility. Whether your plan succeeds or fails is not your measure of strength. What matters is, did you show up? Did you speak with clarity? Did you do your part with full presence, full intention, and full integrity? Attachment leads to emotional instability. When things go your way, you feel powerful. When they don't, you collapse. That is not power. That is dependency. True strength is steady. It's not swayed by applause or rejection. It's rooted in internal standards, not external validation. It's built on doing what is right, not what is rewarded. The person who detaches from outcomes is not indifferent. They are focused. They are clear on where their responsibility ends. There's a difference between commitment and attachment. Commitment says, I will give everything I have. Attachment says, I must have the result I imagined. One is courageous. The other is desperate, and desperation clouds your judgment, weakens your presence, and gives fear the upper hand. When you're attached, you don't act, you cling. You don't engage, you perform. You don't lead, you beg. You're not grounded, you're shaken by every shift in result, in feedback, in timing. When you detach from outcomes, you reclaim your peace. You become able to take the risk, have the conversation, step into uncertainty, because your identity isn't tied to the result. You're not chasing a trophy. You're chasing mastery. You're not here to prove something. You're here to build something. And you understand that growth doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like silence, like rejection, like failure. But even then, you walk forward calm, clear, untouched by the storm because your anchor is within. This is not about passivity. It's not about giving up or accepting failure. It's about shifting your focus to where your power lies. You can't force someone to understand you. You can't force life to reward your timing. You can't control how the world responds to your effort. But you can control your discipline. You can control how you show up. You can control whether you remain steady in the face of what you didn't expect. Too many people live in a constant loop of what if? What if I fail? What if they don't respond? What if I lose everything? That's anxiety speaking. And it only grows louder when your sense of worth is attached to something outside of you. You beat that fear by reminding yourself, I am not here to control. I am here to contribute. I am not here to be guaranteed anything. I am here to be grounded in everything. Detached does not mean disconnect. It means you don't worship the outcome. You don't base your value on things you cannot hold. You don't measure success by how it looks, but by how you stayed true. True to your values, your process, your principles. Whether people praise or ignore, whether the door opens or closes, whether the idea succeeds or flops, none of that defines you. What defines you is your consistency under pressure. Your clarity when everything is unclear. Your integrity when there is no applause, there is power and release. When you stop clinging to the outcome, your actions become clean. Your conversations become honest. Your energy becomes lighter. You no longer act out of fear. You act out of alignment. And that changes the way you move through the world. You start taking risks not to win, but because they're aligned with who you are. You stop fearing failure, because it's no longer tied to your identity. You stop needing approval, because your mission is no longer about being seen, but about staying true. Let the world do what it will. Let people respond how they choose. Let results take the shape they take. You are not here to orchestrate outcomes. You are here to stay grounded through them, to act without expectation, to love without possession, to try without demand. And in that space, you become unbreakable. Not because nothing hurts you, but because nothing owns you. An anxious mind lives in the future. It's always chasing the next problem, the next threat, the next imagined disaster. It rehearses conversations that haven't happened. It fights battles that haven't begun. It suffers pain that hasn't arrived. This is the source of most human misery. Not the events of life, but the way the mind projects forward without limit. The mind believes it's being helpful. It thinks that preparing for every possibility will make you safer. But all it does is flood your system with stress about things that aren't even real yet. Fear thrives in the unknown. Anxiety feeds on anticipation. But here's the truth. The only place life ever happens is now. Not 5 minutes from now. Not next week. Not next year. Now. This moment. This breath. This heartbeat. Everything else is a guess. Everything else is fiction. And the more time you spend living in that fiction, the more power you give to fear. Presence isn't a luxury. It's not some soft spiritual concept. It's a weapon. It's how you take your mind back from the chaos it creates. Most people live like ghosts. Their body is here, but their mind is elsewhere. In a loop of worry. In a storm of predictions. In a fog of regret. They're not grounded. They're drifting. And drifting leads to fear, because the mind that isn't anchored will grab onto anything to feel control. It creates worst-case scenarios and forces you to relive them over and over until they feel real. But they're not real. They're just mental noise you haven't learned to silence. The present moment is the only place where fear dissolves. Because fear is a projection, and when you're fully present, There is no future to fear. There is only breath, movement, action. Focus your attention is rooted in what you're doing right now. Fear loses its grip. You return to what's real. You return to what you can see, hear, touch, do. Not what might happen, but what is happening. And what's happening is rarely as bad as the story your mind created. Presence doesn't mean you stop thinking. It means you stop spinning. You interrupt the loop. You drop out of your head and into the moment. Into your breath. Into your posture, into your senses. You feel your feet on the ground. You listen to your own voice. You return to your task. You center yourself through action. That's the difference between reaction and response. Reaction is automatic. Response is present. You don't just feel. You choose. Training your presence is not complicated. It's not something you wait to feel inspired to do. It's a practice. You wake up and put your feet on the floor, and you feel that moment. You sit in stillness for 5 minutes and observe your breath, and when your mind runs, you bring it back. Over and over, without drama, without judgment. You speak slower. You eat slower. You listen fully. You give your full attention to what's in front of you, even if it's mundane, especially if it's mundane. Because presence isn't just for big moments. It's built in the small ones. An anxious mind is loud. Presence is quiet. And people fear silence because silence forces them to face themselves. But that's exactly why you must step into it. Not to escape, but to strengthen. You won't beat anxiety by outrunning it. You'll beat it by turning toward it with stillness and saying, I see you. But I'm here. I'm not moving. I'm not running. I'm not buying into the story. That's how you train yourself to stay rooted in the now. That's how you stop handing fear the microphone. This practice doesn't make you soft. It makes you precise. You stop wasting energy on imaginary problems. You stop reacting to shadows. You respond with clarity. You lead with calm. You act without panic. You handle situations that used to overwhelm you because your mind is no longer living 5 steps ahead. It's here, focused, present. And that presence gives you access to power you didn't even know you had. If you want to become unshakable, you must learn to bring yourself back. Again and again. When your mind starts spinning, bring it back. When your chest tightens, bring it back. When the fear rises, bring it back. To the breath, to the step, to the action in front of you. You are not your thoughts. You are the one observing them. You are not your emotions. You are the one holding them. You don't need to believe everything your fear tells you. You only need to be here. There's a moment when fear rises that you have to choose. Do I obey this feeling or do I move anyway? That's the test. That's the pivot point that decides if your mind owns your life or if your discipline does. Fear is loud. It shows up fast. It's emotional, overwhelming, and convincing. But reason is quiet. It's calm. It doesn't panic. It doesn't rush. It doesn't scream. It whispers direction while fear yells disaster. And in that tension between the two, you must decide who to trust. Most people let their emotions make decisions for them. They think if something feels scary, it must be avoided. If it feels uncomfortable, it must be wrong. But that's not truth. That's programming. That's how the mind protects itself from imagined pain. But protection is not always progress. What feels safe is often the exact thing holding you back. The path of growth isn't comfortable. It's full of resistance, uncertainty, and risk. And your emotions won't like that. They'll tell you to turn around. But if you listen to your emotions every time they scream discomfort, you'll never evolve. You'll stay in the same loop of safety and regret. Discipline is the decision to follow what you know is right, regardless of how you feel. It's doing the work even when motivation disappears. It's speaking the truth even when your voice shakes. It's walking into the room even when anxiety tells you to hide. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel. It reminds you of what matters. It's the internal compass that points north when everything inside you wants to drift. And the more you train it, the more powerful it becomes. You must build the ability to pause between the stimulus and the response. That pause is where strength lives. That pause is where you choose who's in charge, your fear or your character. Discipline is not about suppressing your emotions. It's about holding the line when those emotions try to take the wheel. You acknowledge them. You feel them. But you don't let them lead. You take the emotion in and then you take action anyway. That's how you beat anxiety. Not by waiting for it to vanish, but by acting in spite of it. Start small. Practice discipline in the ordinary. Wake up when you said you would. Move your body even when you don't feel like it. Say no to the things that drain your energy. Say yes to the hard conversations that sharpen your spine. Each of those small acts strengthens your mind. And when fear arrives, and it will, you've already trained the muscle to move forward. You won't collapse into emotion. You'll stand inside your decision. This is not about becoming robotic. It's about becoming rooted. Emotions are a part of you, but they are not your master. You feel fear, but you are not fear. You feel anxious, but you are not anxiety. You feel uncertain, but you are not weakness. You are the one behind all of it. The observer, the decider, the one who moves anyway. And when you build your life around that core, you become dangerous to fear. Because you're no longer reactive. Your intentional fear wants you to wait for perfect certainty. Discipline knows there's no such thing. It moves anyway. It says, even if I fall, I'll stand again. It says, even if this fails, I'll rebuild. It says, I don't need guarantees to act. I need alignment. And once you train yourself to think that way, anxiety loses its leverage. It no longer has the power to paralyze you, because you've already decided, no matter how I feel, I will move. This kind of self-command isn't given, it's built. It's built every time you reject the easy excuse. Every time you push past the hesitation. Every time you feel the panic and step forward anyway. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be more loyal to your mission than to your comfort. That's what separates the grounded from the scattered, the calm from the chaotic, the brave from the paralyzed. It's not about being emotionless. It's about being unmoved by emotion when the moment calls for strength. You train this by living it, by recognizing the internal war between the part of you that wants relief and the part that wants growth. And every time you choose growth, you become stronger. Every time you stay in the room when you want to run, you become sharper. Every time you speak when fear tightens your chest, you become freer. Because you are no longer led by emotion. You're guided by reason, reinforced by discipline, and backed by truth.